All right, council member, we are now live on YouTube and you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert White, council member at large and chair of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. Today is Monday, February 7th, 2022, and we are meeting remotely via the Zoom teleconferencing platform. The time is now 12:08 p.m. I'm calling to order this public hearing of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. The topic of today's hearing is Bill 24-466, the St. Elizabeth's East Parcel 13 Surplus and Disposition Approval Act of 2021. This bill would allow the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, or DMPED, to move ahead with their plans regarding a 3-acre plot of land near the Congress Heights Metro Station in Ward 8. The land is part of the East Campus of the historic St. Elizabeth's Hospital. The campus is in the midst of a complex, large-scale redevelopment push and has been carved into many smaller parcels to facilitate different uses by different parties. For the parcel at issue today, known as Parcel 13, DMPED wants to pursue mixed-use housing and retail. Building on Parcel 13 will not be easy. There's a ravine that runs through it, some metro infrastructure running underground, and possibly a small wetlands area. An independent valuation firm has opined that, quote, there is currently no legally permissible use of the site that is financially feasible absent significant subsidies and or a nonprofit entity willing to undertake a development of the site without expectation of realizing a profit, end quote. DMPED's preferred approach to getting new housing and retail space built on Parcel 13 is to lease the land for 99 years to a local business called Neighborhood Development Company, LLC. I mentioned significant subsidies. This developer would only pay the district government $1 per year in rent. But DMPED's idea is that this is worthwhile because of what the community would gain. The plan includes 21,000 square feet of retail space, and the developer has gotten commitments from Half Smoke to open a restaurant and from A Wider Circle to offer social services. The plan also includes 421 housing units, and DC law requires all housing projects built using public land to set aside 30% of their units for households making certain percentages below the median income. DMPED predicts that the project will generate local jobs and tax revenue. That all sounds good, and I certainly appreciate the developers coming to this hearing to share more details about their plan for the space. However, I do have some significant procedural concerns here. The district has detailed laws on the books that spell out exactly what steps the mayor is supposed to take when she wants to give public lands away through a long-term lease. First, her administration is supposed to hold what's called a surplus hearing. That's where community members can weigh in on whether the land is needed for a district government purpose, such as a school or a park. If not, the land can be deemed surplus. Only after that carefully considered surplus determination is the executive allowed to start shopping the land around for private parties to take it over. And even then, the law requires a second administrative hearing known as a disposition hearing, at which community members can weigh in on the executive's specific proposed disposition of the property. After 2 public hearings in the community, if the executive is still happy with their concept, they still typically have to send 2 separate resolutions to the council for final approval. For Parcel 13, DMPED had one of the 2 required administrative hearings, a surplus hearing, back in March 2018. From the public transcript of that hearing, we can see that some community members were uneasy about the idea that the district government wouldn't use the land for any government purpose. They felt they were given too little information about the alternatives, and they were worried they wouldn't have enough input in the event of a private development. Nevertheless, DMPED decided to skip the second hearing stage and sent the council 1 bill instead of the normal 2 resolutions. The mayor is asking us to approve a bill that authorizes their proposed disposition, but expressly waives the requirement of a second hearing. To be clear, the waiver that the mayor is asking for is within the council's power to grant, but it does make me uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable whether our government tries to cut corners, whenever our government tries to cut corners and community voices go unheard as a result. Frankly, I'm uncomfortable even in those rare circumstances when the executive does check all the boxes, because I've been hearing from experts and advocates that the whole process set forth in the law isn't actually good enough at drawing out meaningful participation and bold ideas. Just this past November, the Council Office on Racial Equity, or CORE, issued the following official statement about a very similar mixed-use land lease proposal. Quote, given the deep and pervasive racial inequities in home ownership, rent burden, employment, and distribution of resources, among other outcomes, it is difficult to justify public land ever being deemed unnecessary for public use. Instead, the district could prioritize ways to creatively maximize public lands to address existing racial inequities, end quote. That analysis helped not only me, but several other council members on and off this committee take a step back and call for a review of the legal procedure, which is underway. So with all that background, I apologize if I sound a little skeptical with DMPED, or if I subject this bill to what seems like extra scrutiny. This is not about any particular developer or any particular plan. It's about whether we as a government are doing everything in our power to genuinely examine transformative possibilities for our public lands. I'm very grateful that we have Latrina Owens here on behalf of DMPED today. I'm looking forward to hearing her perspective. I don't believe any of my colleagues have joined at this point. So we will move to our witnesses, and let me start by laying the ground rules for public witnesses. Everyone should have received a copy of the witness list on Friday. I'll call witnesses from that list. When I do, the staff will promote you so that you can testify. When you are promoted, you'll drop out of the hearing momentarily and will come back in as a panelist. At that time, you'll be able to unmute yourselves. Public witnesses will be provided with 4 minutes to testify, and advisory neighborhood commissioners will be provided with 5 minutes to testify. So with that, let me call up our first panel. What I'm going to do for the first panel is call all witnesses affiliated with this particular project. So this first panel will include Adrian Washington, Gabe Oliver, Bill Bonstra, Mamo Asefa, Amy Javade, Andre McCain. Mr. Washington, good to see you today. For some reason, I cannot hear you. Doesn't look like you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, that was a very simple adjustment, so thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman White and other members of the committee, if they indeed come on to the meeting. My name is Adrian Washington. I'm the CEO and founder of Neighborhood Development Company, a district-based real estate development company. I'm here today to testify in support of B240466, the St. Elizabeth East Parcel 13 Surplus Declaration and Disapproval Act of 2021, and to answer your questions. I am particularly delighted to speak to you today as a lifelong Washington resident. I founded my company, Neighborhood Development Company, in 1999, and our company remains 100% minority owned 23 years later. And I have a particular pride as someone who grew up in the Congress Heights neighborhood. And so to me, this project has been a personal passion of mine. It really is a return to my roots. As you may know, DMPED and ANC 8C selected NDC's proposal to develop Parcel 13 in late 2020. Our proposal was thoughtfully and purposely constructed with a talented and experienced team of district CBE firms, including Bonstra Hairsign as architect, GCS Siegel as general contractor, and DeLon Hampton as civil engineer, to name a few. And all of these will be, the ones I just named will be testifying shortly. We also partnered with a nonprofit, A Wider Circle, and the Black-owned food concept Half Smoke as anchor retail tenants, and they will be testifying as well. NDC is fortunate to partner with the district to help revitalize one critical component of its far-reaching and comprehensive vision of a St. Elizabeth East campus, specifically our responsibility to deliver a 421 unit apartment building with approximately 21,000 square feet of ground floor retail is a vital housing solution needed to accommodate the physicians, nurses, technicians, security personnel, custodians, concession workers, cafeteria staff, concierge attendants, and numerous other jobs tied to the already active entertainment and sports arena and necessary for the launch and operation of the new St. Elizabeth's Hospital under construction, both neighbors to Parcel 13. Of particular importance to our company is that both the DC City Council and ANCHC's commitment to affordable housing. 30% or 126 of the total apartments will be reserved for district residents in need of desperately needed rent relief. 14 studios, 9 one-bedrooms, and 9 two-bedrooms will be offered at 30% AMI. 40 studios, 27 one-bedrooms, and 27 two-bedrooms will be offered at 50% AMI. These units will serve residents earning between $27,000 to $58,000 a year, resulting in rents ranging from $680 to $1,450 based on unit size. This deep affordability is designed to directly ease the district's critical housing shortage. This programming mix of studios, one bedrooms, and two bedrooms fits well with the campus's master plan, with larger units available on Parcel 11, 10, and 14, and 15. While the development process officially commences after disposition, we are excited the concept renderings demonstrate a color palette and materials that match well the historic aesthetic of the red clay color buildings of the residents at St. Elizabeth's and the forward-looking aesthetic of the sports arena with large all-glass portions on the building facade. Our project team at NDC has driven the early Parcel 13 decisions with valuable input from the Congress Heights community, often through the important work of ANCHC. Despite the entire project lifecycle having occurred during the pandemic, our team has attended and participated in virtual and in-person events, such as the Congress Heights 2021 holiday event, the ANC Holiday Brunch in 2020, and numerous ANCHC meetings. We recently provided briefings to single-member District 8C03 Commissioner Powell, as well as distinguished Ward 8 Council Member Trayon White Sr., whose staff connected us with several additional Congress Heights organizations, furthering the DC Council's objective to support local enterprises by bringing them to our retail space. This strong community engagement will continue throughout the next 12 months as we further embark on development and create a high-impact community benefits agreement in collaboration with ANCHC. Parcel 13 is not without challenges, as you alluded to in your opening remarks. Ramada tunnels run directly underneath the parcel, and 2 large Ramada infrastructure points lay on the surface, a practical trade-off for being next to the metro station. Our development team is well equipped to handle these and other issues with expertise and specific experience doing the same on other parts of the East Campus. Our partners in NDC have a long history of successfully utilizing district firms and employing DC residents through high CBE participation and DOAS first source agreements. They will again be instrumental in tackling Parcel 13. Very quickly, I know I'm a little bit over time. I just want to point out we've completed over 15 projects in the district. We have exemplary CBE contracting and first source employment compliant. We've been responsible for really a leadership role and many of the other firms, Black-owned firms in the district. Many of those I had the privilege working with as employees here. We're very proud of that heritage. And inclusion, our success is the district success. It'll build on the pioneering work by the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. And we express our sincere appreciation to them and to the council. So thank you very much. And we will be here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Washington, could you send that testimony to the committee?
Yes, we will.
I appreciate it. Gabe Oliver, welcome. You can begin your testimony when you're ready.
How's my audio? Okay.
Perfect.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us, Councilmember White, and any members of the committee that are on the call. My name is Gabe Oliver. I'm a vice president with GCS Siegel. NDC has selected us to be their general contracting partner on this exciting project. GCS is a 12-point CBE firm, including longtime resident-owned business. We've been at the St. Elizabeth's East Campus doing projects more or less steadily since 2014, beginning with the RISE Center. We believe firmly in the mission of the DSLBD and DOES related to both contracting goals and workforce participation. Our statistics on the East Campus are exemplary in those regards. For example, at the Rise Center, we had a 50% CBE target. We finished with 64% on that project, including nearly $1 million toward 8 businesses. At the recently completed Residents of St. Elizabeth's East project on Parcel 11, the first privately developed parcel on the East Campus, there was a 35% CBE goal, and we will complete that project with over 50% in contracting and nearly $18 million to SBEs. Over 300 district residents worked on the Residences project at Parcel 11, 150 of them from wards 7 and 8. 30% of the DC residents, 30% of the DC residents on the project were from wards 7 and 8. That was $750,000 of wages paid toward 7 and 8 residents over the course of about 24 months on that project. So real statistics that I believe the district is seeking from general contractors to encourage. GCS Inc. was founded in 1986. We are now also doing several affordable housing projects. So I think Adrian's team has selected us for both our experience in affordable housing and our experience on the East Campus. We're actually building the parking garage to support the ESA adjacent to Parcel 13 right now. As everybody has already mentioned, the 2 speakers, it's a very challenging site. So the selection of GCS Siegel as the general contractor makes sense because we will have the experience from just next door, try to successfully actually get this project out of the ground and deliver it successfully. I thank you for the time, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thanks so much. Bill Bonstra.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is William Bonstra. I'm a 35-year veteran architect here in Washington. We are celebrating 22 plus years of operation here in the district in an enterprise zone. We're a 12-person CBE, and we do mixed use residential projects with retail components every day of the week. We're currently working on 6 affordable housing projects in Washington, D.C. My staff has experience working on the St. East campus. We are working on 4 projects with WMATA situations that Mr. Washington explained and Mr. Oliver explained were a difficult situation on this site. We have also done 14 projects for DGS. We've done projects for the DC Housing Association, and we're really pleased to say that we've worked with Adrian and his team and Gabe and Michael Siegel and his team on many other successful projects. I, in particular, participated as the Ward 2 architect on the DC zoning task force, and I did participate in many meaningful opportunities with the current flume. A couple other statistics on our firm. We have completed 300 housing projects of over 15,000 units since the firm was started. As I said, we have great technical expertise in this typology. We've enjoyed working with the team so far on this site, and would be happy to answer any questions about the design, about the history of the St. East campus, and how our architecture fits into the historic architecture on the site.
Thank you so much. Mamo Asefa.
Ready? Okay. Thank you, Chairperson White and the staff of the Committee of Government Operations and Facilities for the opportunity. My name is Mamo Asefa, and I'm currently the president of DeLon Hampton Associates. I've been with DHA for over 20 years. I started my tenure at DHA as a civil engineering group manager, then regional vice president for the Mid-Atlantic region, and vice president for engineering. And now, 4 years ago, I've assumed the presidency of the company. DHA is the civil engineer for this project. DHA is a DC-based African-American owned firm. It was founded by Dr. Delon Hampton in 1978. We're almost 50 years, and has ever since been performing civil and structural engineering and program management and construction management services in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area and other states. Ever since its inception, DHA has been involved in landmark DC projects. Our initial involvement was with during the construction of the metro, and has been working with WMATA ever since. And we still have program management contract with WMATA. Other notable projects include the Washington National Parks as civil engineer, the Capitol Arena as civil and structural engineers, the Gallery Place development as civil and structural engineers, City Center development as civil engineers, and relevant project to this project, we were the designers of all the dry and wet utilities for the phase one, stage one of the St. Elizabeth East Campus development. I can honestly say, in the close to 50 years of existence in DC, one will not be able to walk more than 2 blocks in DC without encountering a project that DHA has not been involved in or touched. Currently, we're engaged as civil engineers and structural engineers for the new St. Elizabeth Hospital, another landmark project in DC, which is going to be transformational. We are also the civil engineers and landside structural engineers for the 11th Street Bridge Park, another soon-to-be landmark projects. Not only do we work directly for WMATA, but we have been dealing with them on the development side and have intimate knowledge of their joint development and adjacent construction JDAC process, which is going to be coming handy on this project. The gallery development, Gallery Place development, as well as the Capitol One Arena, was built right above the Gallery Place metro station and the green and yellow lines. Only DHA knows the size of the beams and girders that span the tunnel, which lie right below the arena where the Wizards and the Capitals play. We have the drawings. DHA also has civil and structural engineers for the Progression Place development on 7th Street Northwest, work with WMATA on the JDAC process to mitigate the impact on WMATA assets. As the civil engineer of Parcel 13 development, DHA has been advising the team on the site development process by suggesting grading approaches, researching the depth and horizontal locations of the nearby WMATA tunnels, in identify minimizing impact of assets. In summary, DHA knows DC. We have been in DC all our life and hope to be here in perpetuity, and as such has witnessed and participated in the transformation of DC. I knew Chinatown before Gallery Place, before the convention center. I also know the area southeast on M and Anacostia River, where the Nats are. It's transformed. The St. Elizabeth campus development will probably be the one that we'll be proud of, because the project's intention was not only development for development's sake, but also was programmed to be inclusive, intentionally planned to include the current residents. And I know because of all the efforts and planning that went through it, this will be a meaningful project and will truly be transformational. And I'm very proud to be part of this team to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amy Javed, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairperson White. My name is Amy Javed, and I am the president and CEO of A Wider Circle. A Wider Circle is a social service nonprofit organization. For 20 years, we have supported thousands of our neighbors most in need across the region. We serve across 3 pillars. Number 1, meeting urgent and basic needs through our essential support program. We provide furniture and housewares free of charge through our headquarters in Silver Spring. Many of those we serve are the recently housed, those escaping domestic violence, and those who have experienced emergency situations such as fire. This program served more than 10,000 children and adults in 2021, including 3,600 from DC and more than 600 families, particularly from Ward 7 and 8. Number 2, supporting individuals through our workforce development program. There are many technical training and job placement programs across the region, and many do incredible work. But for some of our job seekers, other needs or challenges are barriers to their success. As a result, we emphasize a more holistic and coaching approach. We support navigating the labor market, building social capital, and emphasizing emotional intelligence. We seek to empower those we serve to identify their own strengths and assets and follow a journey that works for them. More than 1,000 individuals benefited from this program in 2021. And number 3, building pathways to long-term change. We have 2 long-term initiatives. One is a 5-year program called the Partnership to Independence. The current cohort of 18 families receive support in workforce development, financial stability, and health and wellness. To date, several participants have become owners, improved their credit score, obtained long-term employment, and improved their self-care. The next cohort of this program will begin recruiting this spring and will specifically be for families in Ward 8. The second long-term initiative is our place-based work. Since 2016, A Wider Circle has partnered with the DC Housing Authority to support some of DC's lowest income families. This past fall, we were thrilled to open our Highland Hub, an approximately 3,000 square foot space at the corner of 4th and Atlantic Street and Condon Terrace in the Washington Highlands community. In Ward 8, we provide basic household goods, deliver food, provide school supplies, fund micro grants, convene community leaders. We listen, learn, and walk alongside residents and partners. Our hub is also a space for partners to bring in services that would otherwise be unavailable, ranging from legal support to HIV testing. More than 1,000 residents were supported through our efforts in 2021. This long-term place-based effort we call neighborhood partnerships because its priorities are based on stakeholders coming together to develop solutions. Intentional listening and centering race, equity, and advocacy are at the heart of the way we serve. Our proposed new space for Parcel 13 will provide an opportunity for another hub, place-based programming right in the community. At the core of all community development and redevelopment is one single item: people. Whether building commercial or residential, transforming old or building new, all of it impacts people. We believe strongly in the power of people and human connection. We see this multi-party partnership in the overall redevelopment an opportunity for people to thrive. We look forward to a space similar to the one we have in Washington Highlands and a conduit to our Silver Spring services. We have been part of this team since early 2020 and look forward to working collaboratively through this process and to the next stage toward construction and eventual delivery of services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andre McCain, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members and distinguished guests. I'm Andre McCain, founder and CEO of Half Smoked Restaurant, a DC-based CBE. It is a pleasure to be here today and to provide testimony in support of Parcel 13. I'm a native Washingtonian, as I said. I grew up in Ward 7 on Eastern Avenue in the Deanwood neighborhood. My mother still lives in the same apartment where I grew up, a place where she's lived for over 40 years. I'm also a proud graduate of the formerly named Woodrow Wilson High School and also a graduate of Morehouse College. After college, I had the privilege of working on Wall Street as an investment banker and private equity investor for over 7 years. Through these experiences, I developed key finance and business skills that have supported me as an entrepreneur and have supported the financial performance of my business. During my finance career in New York City, I imagined applying these skills to own a business of my own in Washington, DC. That plan came to fruition in 2016 when I opened Half Smoked Restaurant in the Shaw neighborhood on the corner of Florida and Georgia Avenue. As someone who's worked in Shaw during high school and up against the wall, the Shaw neighborhood has always been near and dear to my heart, given its deep roots and the history of DC. I was very compelled to move back to DC to start my business as part of the tremendous growth in the DC hospitality scene. And I'm elated to now see that this growth is finally extending east of the river to neighborhoods that typically do not benefit from affordable, healthy food and beverage options. I'm very excited to be a part of the St. Elizabeth redevelopment and part of the Parcel 13 team. Half Smoked was a part of NDC's initial development proposal to DMPED and to ANC 88. Immediately saw the value of Half Smoked's food and service operation in NDC's project. The Parcel 13 location is a key part of Half Smoked's growth strategy. Half Smoked seeks to grow to 7 locations in the next couple of years. Have Smoke employs many district residents and will continue to do so as it grows. Thank you again for the time to testify today.
Thank you all very much for your testimonies, for all the work that you are doing on this project. Most of my questions are for DMPED, but I have a few for this group. Mr. Washington, you mentioned in your testimony that ANCHC selected this project. Were there multiple sort of projects and they selected this one?
I mean, selected, I don't know if I use that word quite precisely. I mean, they endorsed our proposal. There were multiple bidders for the site, and ANCHC, and I guess they're coming up, so you can ask them directly, but yes, they endorsed our proposal.
Okay, so okay, and that was the follow-up. So ANCHC is on the record supporting this project.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the value of the land of this parcel?
Okay. So I think you addressed that in your opening testimony, Chairman White, that with the benefits that we're providing to the district in terms of affordable housing and high quality design, and given the rental market status, really for a straightforward sort of commercial project, this would have no value. So what we have partnered with the district, and we've done this in other elections as well, is that in relation for the property being leased for a nominal amount, we're able to give far higher levels of affordable housing and other community amenities than we could otherwise.
So on that point, talk to me about can we do? I mean, it's an impressive project, and I don't want to imply otherwise. I use these hearings to kick the tires and really understand what's beneath it. There are 126 income restricted units. Can you mentioned that breakdown in your testimony, but can you give that to me again in terms of the number of units and bedrooms?
Yes, so there will be at the 30% level, there will be 14 studios, 9 one-bedrooms, and 9 two-bedrooms. And at the 50% level, there will be 40 studios, 27 one-bedrooms, and 27 two-bedrooms.
Okay.
So for a total of 126. Yes, thank you.
All right. Couple questions on that. Why will there be any in the market rate units? Will there be any 3-bedrooms?
No. So when we worked with DMPED and really tried to fit our project into the overall campus plan, it was determined that this building would be focused more on studios, would be focused exclusively on studios, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms. And that other parts of the campus plan, and DMPED can speak to that when they testify, had a much wider mix. So they have 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, they have home ownership, they have townhome configuration. So it's thought it was best that this one, sort of being a moderate rise building, would be best suited to provide the maximum number of units. And so to keep the bedrooms, studios, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms.
Okay. Of the 126 income restricted units, 295 market rate, why can we not do more than 30% income restricted units?
I mean, we could have. I mean, we looked at kind of what was in the need for the market, and most importantly, what the community wanted. And so what the community wants, and we found this throughout district neighborhoods, is that they want a mix. They want market rate, they want affordable. So 30% was deemed 30% market affordable, 70% market rate in consultation with community was deemed like the right mix. They want, other market rate housing that wanted to be seen as all the affordable housing, but again, they had compassion for people in the community who wanted lower end. So 30-70 was deemed the best mix.
Okay, and when you say this is what the community wanted, as gauged in what sort of engagements with the community? Okay.
So, and I think you'll see this when you see our written testimony. I don't know how much time you want to take, but I mean, we have engaged in, somewhere in the mid-teens in terms of community meetings, going back to a few meetings before the solicitation, where we met with the community on a couple of occasions. Then we addressed back after hearing from them. We addressed our comments, and clearly are also, and not just us, but our partners, GCS Siegel, Wider Circle, are all very much entrenched community. So these are just sort of the formal meetings we've had. We have a list going back to March of 2018 and going up all the way until just a couple of weeks, I believe, before this hearing. So, and we've also met with you or your staff. I'm not sure if you were in attendance, other members of staff. So we have a complete list of the many meetings, and we take very seriously our obligation to consult with the community, and we will do so going forward as well.
That is, and I mentioned this in my opening statement, that is one of my concerns, is that there is legally, there should have been a second sort of community engagement. And, one of the things I think is very important is that we are listening to the community about what they want, not saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, take this thing, but listening to the community about what they want. And so I am concerned about not having that, the administration not having done this second community engagement meeting. So that's something that we're going to have to grapple with as a committee and as a council. Obviously several of you mentioned, seems like a very talented team, able to deal with the difficulties of developing on this parcel. So I was going to ask sort of how confident you were with respect to your development costs. But let me ask this instead. If the development costs increase sort of mid-project, who pays that increased cost?
I mean, we will, development is challenging. This site has its particular challenges, but other sites, have had challenges as well. And so, as you pointed out, we were very proud of the team we assembled, and we assembled them specifically because they had not just general knowledge, general amount of knowledge, but particularly in the case of GCS Siegel and DeLon Hampton's particular knowledge of this particular site and have navigated it. So it's our expectation now that the project cost, will not increase. We had a healthy contingency to allow for these things. And so we're very confident in the assumptions that we've made so far.
Okay. And if there are cost overruns, who pays those?
I assume it'll be a shared responsibility that we may certainly, our team will be able to contribute more. Some more partners might contribute more. We're looking at financing sources, and to the extent necessary, we may ask the district for a little bit more.
Okay. Do you know if that is sort of codified, and I assume it's codified in one of the agreements, and I can ask DMPED if you don't know offhand.
No, I prefer to defer to DMPED for that particular discussion.
Okay. The pedestrian promenade, is that going to provide like pedestrian access to the metro? Is that something else?
No, promenade is connection to the sports and entertainment complex.
Okay. Who will maintain that and deal with like programming of that space?
The promenade itself, I believe that falls under our jurisdiction. If anybody else in the panel can correct me if I'm wrong.
For Amy Javed, you spoke about a number of the ongoing programs of a wider circle, which I'm familiar with. Many of us are familiar with the work that you all do, which I appreciate a great deal. And I did have the opportunity to visit your new site in Ward 8. What types of commitments are you all making in terms of this project? Are there any kind of specific commitments, whether it's sort of particular programs, employment, and anything like that?
Sure, thank you for the question. The primary emphasis, and I think one of the key points of discussion we had when we joined this team, was with regard to workforce development and career services, recognizing the number of new employers and the very type of employers that are on the campus, and ensuring that potential job seekers have all the services they need to thrive in those new opportunities. So I would say that the forefront service in that space would be workforce development. But we recognize that many of us have complex lives and multiple needs, and likely those who walk through the door will have the same. And so we do want to make sure that if people come in with a question relating to housing stability or food insecurity or any other type of service access need, that we listen to those and adjust our program accordingly. I would like to have the overall emphasis be more holistic, but with a special emphasis on workforce development and both soft skills and emotional intelligence and the other things that we mentioned. We'd be happy to do things like host job fairs and host networking events to better connect community members to potential employers or to other potential training opportunities that might be available on the campus.
I appreciate it. Andre McCain, like a whole lot of folks in DC, I love Half Smoke. Love the idea of you all expanding. What similar question is the one asked to Wider Circle? What commitment do you see from Half Smoke in terms of sort of number of employees and benefits to the district?
Thank you for your kind words. We anticipate anywhere between 50 to 75 employees at this location, the vast majority of which will be DC residents, as is the case at our Shaw location.
Okay. And there's this probably won't be for you, will probably be for Mr. Washington, but are there other retail opportunities being considered? And if so, like what kinds?
Well, yes, there are. The two partner tenants you have in front of us represent around about half the space, if I'm correct. And we are anxious to bring in other people, other locally based, locally serving retailers, and we will consult with the community on those and hope to source them locally.
Okay, I appreciate it. Well, as we close out this panel, let me just mention for folks watching who may not have seen a lot of these types of transactions. Obviously, we have to examine it to make sure that the district has sort of met its statutory obligation. But the idea of leasing land for $1 a year is not at all novel. It's something DC government does, federal governments across the country do this because when we believe that there is a significant benefit to a public benefit. So that is one of the things that we are examining, but this is not like out of the ordinary for government projects. So with that, let me thank you all again for being here today and for the work that you all are doing on this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to bring up our final panel of public witnesses. Sharice Crawford, Stephanie Fu, Wendell Kwan, and Commissioner Salim Adolfo. Stephanie Fu, welcome. You can begin your testimony when you're ready.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon, and thank you guys for hearing my testimony today. So I am a Washington, D.C. native, a Ward 8 business owner, Ward 8 employee. I just wanted to know if the Parcel 13 project includes any mixed use development, like rental properties as well as opportunities to buy. I know they're setting aside 30%, but for those of us who are not yet ready to buy, but would like to benefit from being a part of the project and living somewhere nice with the option to buy later.
I appreciate it. Is that the extent of your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make sure we get all that information to the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development that coming up next, and I'll make sure we get those questions answered. Wendell Kwan, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and committee and others. I serve a dual role, the Congress Heights Main Street, and we also explored creating a bid, but because of most of the properties owned in the community or government owned, we have created a community partnership, the Congress Heights Partnership. And both of these organizations strongly support this proposal of disposition of this particular property because this is a continuum of the growth and development that has stimulated the community and benefited not only residents, but it's improving our business district and has created significant jobs. And so, and I'm speaking specifically to the developments that have occurred and are currently in process on St. Elizabeth, which this project will be a continuum of those projects. And so we strongly support this disposition. We have been working with DenPed to also provide clean team services on this campus. And so we see this particular project stimulating the entire area and enhancing the investment that the city has already put into this area. And so, the testimony is that we strongly support this particular disposition. And we participated in the outreach efforts around this from a community perspective. And I know that was an issue with the chairman, the extent of community outreach, but we've been informed and have participated in this process. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for your testimonies. Mr. Kwan, the Congress Heights has a main street, correct?
Yes, we do.
That's okay. That's what I thought. You all have been operating for a number of years. How is that work coming with the Congress Heights Main Street?
Well, I mean, we've been under invested community, and so our corridor goes up Alabama and MLK, and we've had it expanded to go through the St. Elizabeth because we consider it, part of the community. And so this is kind of stimulating us in a way because of the number of the businesses have been here a long time. And so it's stimulated from, basic things like facade improvements and stepping up your game, and to bring, businesses like Half Smoke will rise all boats. That's what we see it as, an opportunity, because we've been kind of disadvantaged in terms of having the right mix of retail. We only have one sit-down restaurant space, and so we see this as a continuum to help us improve further.
I appreciate it. And for you or Stephanie Fu, I mentioned a concern of mine, which is that there is supposed to be a second public meeting on the plan before the mayor's office moves forward, which they didn't have here. Are you all comfortable that sort of the community's perspective has been incorporated and prioritized in this project? Let me start with Stephanie Fu.
Okay, so what would the second aspect of this be? Like, so what does it look like if what you're saying is missing from this whole process? What would that look like for us?
That's more for you to answer than for me, right? I don't want to speak for the community, right? So, how communities want to be engaged, the types of things that they want to see. I try not to speak for people who can speak for themselves. What I do know is that the law requires a second public meeting. And I also know that I hear from people all the time. I was in not Congress Heights, but at Historic Anacostia this past weekend. And, one of the frustrations I heard, and I hear it all the time, is, we sort of want to say in how our community developed, because folks say they don't want Anacostia or Congress Heights to look like everywhere else in DC. Sort of, they don't want it to look cookie cutter. So sort of, how to best engage and get that feedback. I don't want to say. That's why I want to ask people from the community. Do you feel that the engagement has been sufficient?
Oh, I honestly didn't know a portion of this process was missing. I'm neither for nor against it. I would, if it benefits us and give the people of this community a voice in this process, I'm all for it. Where the project stands right now, I'm also for it moving forward, especially if they have some rental units. So I'm neither for nor against it.
All right, I appreciate it. I'll confirm. I think they're all rental units, but I'm going to confirm with the with the agency in a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wendell Kwan.
Yeah, so there are a tremendous amount of balls up in the air of new projects, particularly coming on St. Elizabeth. And that's a common complaint from some parts of the community, but I could say, there's 360 degrees of, opinions around this. The one that I hear most often, and that's not specific to this particular project, is that there's a 21% home ownership rate in Congress sites, and that's because of not people wanting to own. It's just a lack of opportunities because there's a high concentration of affordable rental housing. And so what I hear often is more opportunities for home ownership, which, as you're bringing on projects online, is a high demand for that and the affordability. And so, two bites at the apple is sometimes better, to get more input. But I don't know that, I think it should be a word of warning, to follow the process as opposed to delaying this particular project.
I appreciate it. I will say this just for anybody who's sort of just tuning into this hearing. This happens project after project. Like the process is not followed, and sort of this emergency is pushed to the council, and everybody says, well, you got to just do it this one last time. And it happens every week. And at some point, we got to start following the right processes. Nobody wants to, sink a project, but Lord, like at some point, we have got to start doing things the way we're supposed to. So thank you so much for your testimony. Truly appreciate you engaging in this, because the perspective of the community is the most important perspective here. So thank you both very much for being with us today. That will conclude our public witnesses. And so we now will move to our government witness, Latrina Owens, Executive Director for St. Elizabeth's East Development, with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. And let me give Ms. Owens a minute to get queued up. Good afternoon. Good to have you with us.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairperson. I first want to start off by just wishing our Legislative Director, Erica Sadler, happy birthday. And, I thank her for all that she's done to prep me today and attending today, this hearing today.
Let me join you in wishing her a happy birthday. And hopefully she prepped you well, because we got a lot of questions for you.
I mean, hey, we're ready.
That's right.
All right.
Well, I'm sorry, before you begin, it's the practice of this committee to put our government witnesses under oath. So I will ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks so much. You can begin.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairperson White, members and staff of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. My name is Latrina Owens, and I serve as the Executive Director of the St. Elizabeth East Redevelopment in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. I'm here to testify in support of B24-0466, the St. Elizabeth East Parcel 13 Surplus Declaration and Disposition Approval Act of 2021. The approval of this act would authorize the mayor to declare as surplus the District of Columbia owned real property known as Parcel 13, located at 1100 Alabama Avenue Southeast, Washington, D.C., and known for taxation and assessment purposes as Lot 850 and Square S-5868, as no longer required for public purposes, and approves its disposition. While the subject of today's hearing is the declaration of the property as surplus, my testimony will also touch on aspects of the proposed disposition of the property. B24-0466, the St. Elizabeth East Parcel 13 Surplus Declaration and Disposition Approval Act of 2021 is also currently pending before the Committee on Business and Economic Development. I would like to thank you for holding this hearing and recognizing invaluable contributions of the community, particularly past and present members of ANC-8C, residents of Congress Heights Ward 8, Councilmember Trayon White and his staff, and the many other surrounding neighbors and community members who have been active in making the redevelopment of historic St. Elizabeth East possible. Rich in economic promise, historic resources, and federal access, the campus is one of the few remaining large development opportunities in the nation's capital, an opportunity to transform 183 acres into a marketplace of ideas and commercialization. Less than 3 miles and just a few metro stops from the U.S. Capitol, St. Elizabeth's East invites a mixed-use development that simultaneously serves nearby communities, nearby federal office tenants, and the local demand for retail, residential, and office uses. The Parcel 13 property is unimproved land, which consists of one parcel totaling approximately 138,162 square feet of land. St. Elizabeth's East is located at 2700 Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue Southeast in the Congress Heights neighborhood of Washington, D.C., and is directly across the street from the historic St. Elizabeth's West Campus, the home of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Consolidated Headquarters. DMPED hosted a properly noticed community meeting about the proposed determination of the property as surplus on March 28, 2018, at the RISE Demonstration Center at St. Elizabeth's East. The meeting included a review of the master plan and the time for the public to submit their comments about the surplus process. DMPED also attended the ANC-8C meeting on May 2nd, 2018, to address additional questions and present the development plan for the campus to community members. DMPED attended the Congress Heights Community Association meeting on May 14th, 2018. This meeting included a presentation of the St. Elizabeth's East plans for surplus of Parcel 13. Following the surplus hearing, the district completed a thorough competitive solicitation process to select a developer to develop the property. On January 29, 2019, DMPED hosted a pre-offer conference for members of the public interested in the solicitation. 38 individuals attended the conference. DMPED's presentation and the names and contact information for the attendees at the pre-offer conference was also posted on the St. Elizabeth East website. On March 4th, 2020, DMPED hosted a meeting with 13 attendees for the public to hear presentations from the developer and to make comments directly to the teams. Attendees were able to comment verbally, in written format, and through email. Members of the public were encouraged to submit written responses on each team's proposal directly to DMPED. On March 19, 2020, the extended proposal due date, DMPED received 2 proposals. On May 11, 2020, DMPED convened a review panel consisting of representatives from DMPED's real estate team, DC Office of Planning, the Department of Transportation, and Department of General Services. The selection panel was presented with the development proposals, given selection criteria, and discussed the merits and drawbacks of each. In June 2020, the selection panel unanimously recommended the Neighborhood Development Company proposal as the Parcel 13 developer. On November 20th, 2020, the district announced the selection of the NDC team as the district's development partner of Parcel 13 development on St. Elizabeth's East campus. The RFP included the following community focus requirements: the maximum CBE participation, to ensure distinct and unique architecture design quality that is consistent with the 2012 master plan, transit-oriented development that reflects the project's proximity to the Congress Heights Station, the creation of direct access sight lines to the entertainment and sports arena from the Congress Heights Metro station via a pedestrian promenade, a mix of uses that are consistent with the allowable land uses outlined in the 2012 master plan, compatible with the existing entertainment and sports arena, leverage existing neighborhood development, and serve the adjacent communities. Letters of intent from potential commercial tenants and include plans for social and economic benefits to the community, including employment training, personal development, retail, and food access. The development team includes 4 certified business enterprises, NDC, Bonstra Harrison, GCS Siegel, MG Capital. The developer also included DeLon Hampton, SK&A Structural Engineers in their design team, and a letter of intent from Half Smoke and a wider circle in their proposal. These local businesses and CBE tenant partners will enhance the development program and provide successful, attractive tenants to the campus. The proposed development of the property follows the guidance of the 2012 master plan, which envisions the creation of the 13th Street sector development of the St. Elizabeth's East Campus by providing additional mixed-use commercial and residential development that leverage the ongoing public and private investments in the neighborhood as a mixed-use destination. Consistent with the goals, Parcel 13 was identified because of its ability to achieve additional sense of place in the community, leverage the activities of the entertainment and sports arena, establish additional tenants, and increase activity at St. Elizabeth's to spur further development phases, most particularly. Specifically, the proposed Parcel 13 offers proximity to the Congress Heights Metro Station, allows for the creation of a transit-oriented development, space allocated for workforce development programming for local residents, new construction that creates 421 unit mixed income, and will offer affordable dwelling units to 126 residents, ground up development pads for potential retail uses and walking distance to the Congress Heights Metro Station. Regarding tax revenue, Parcel 13 is anticipated to generate approximately $56,554,511 in permanent tax revenues over 30 years, inclusive of real property taxes, sales and use taxes, and other business-related taxes. And is anticipated to create over 381 temporary jobs through the construction period and over 69 permanent jobs upon completion. DenPed is proud to be moving this exciting project forward, activating currently underutilized space in the Congress Heights neighborhood and bringing vital resources of housing, additional tax revenue, and new jobs to the district. Thank you for your time and consideration of the legislation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Let me start with a couple questions from public witness from the last panel. Can you confirm these are all the units are going to be rental and not ownership units? Is that right?
That is correct. We have a current home ownership opportunity at the district towns, which is on parcels 10 and 14 that are currently up for sale. So we'll have 88 units. 28 of those are affordable units as well.
Okay. And one of the questions I asked of the development team was why there were no 3-bedroom units. They said that this was because it wasn't in the campus plan. But it seems like we need a lot more multi-bedroom units for growing families. So why not include 3-bedroom units in this project?
So I think what was proposed is that the developer's proposing 0 to 2-bedroom units. And I think when you look at St. Elizabeth's East and how I look at it, it's comparable to developing a very small city. And when you're doing that, you have to look at the housing mix in its totality. So while we're just talking about Parcel 13, we do have the residences at St. Elizabeth's, which offers 0 to 3 bedrooms, and that's 252 units. Of that, 202 are affordable. We have parcel 15 that will come online, and that is 288 units. Of that, 53% of those units are affordable, and that is 0 to 3 bedrooms. So the goal is to offer a mix of housing that includes market rate, affordable, that speaks to all family types and sizes. So, and also like in the master plan, transitional housing, we just opened the 801 East Men's Shelter about 2 weeks ago, home ownership opportunities, and we're offering that now with the District Town Home Project.
So there, okay.
So there will be an array of housing mixes by the time this development is completed, the complete St. Elizabeth East development.
Well, do you have like an anticipated completion date, year, timeline, I guess?
You know, I wish I did. I could just say, oh, well, this will all be completed by 2025. However, I will say when it is completed per the master plan, we will have at least 1,500 units of housing available for residents.
Okay. Can DMPED send us a campus-wide breakdown of the proposed unit sizes for various parcels?
I can send you what we have for the current parcels, yes.
Thank you. Do you all happen to know where Councilmember Trayon White is in terms of support for this project?
Trayon White is supportive of the project, and he's also supportive of St. Elizabeth's East, the development. We are always in the community. Right now, we have about 5 outreach teams in the community, and he's been very supportive. I think we got the same question maybe about the mixes, and I think the other only response we got was for them to add additional ADA units in this development.
Okay.
ADA units, correct.
The transcript from the surplus hearing on March 28, 2018 contains some fascinating back and forth. It makes clear sort of how difficult it is to unpack whether there's a public need for a property in just, one evening, one meeting. The advisory neighborhood commissioners who were there said that they weren't sure what kinds of potential government uses they could consider. Is there a list of potential government uses that DMPED uses internally?
So no, and I know that I saw that on some of the questions, and I'm not aware of what public list was referenced. So I would truly have to look into that and get back to your office because I was just not clear on that.
So I guess I'm trying to get a sense. So if we go to the community and just say, are there any public uses that you all want? That can be vague for people who don't work inside government. So I guess I'm wondering if you all sit down as a team and like go through all the different options, either internally or with communities, like, here are the upsides and downsides of turning this government land into a new school or a new park. Do you all do that internally or externally?
So yes, I do it externally, just as Latrina's relationship with the community. Yes, I will do that, but I will say that a lot of the planning for St. Elizabeth's is guided by the 2012 master plan. So it is very public as to what the requirements are for each parcel.
Okay.
And this parcel does have a residential requirement.
Okay. And I guess, how does DMPED help community members like assess their options? So when you go to them and say, what do you all want to see, or, what public options would you want us to consider? How do you help community members assess what options there may be? So
we actually work with Congress Heights CDC to do some of the outreach to the community. The community is very aware of the master plan. We present what has been detailed in the master plan. And as you know, during the master planning effort, there were at least 20 to 25 community outreach sessions to determine what people wanted to see on each parcel. So there is a review of those things prior to any type of RFP or solicitation being released.
In this case, community members did come up with at least one specific idea for government use of land. Sharice Crawford asked if a disposition would prevent building a government daycare facility or an early childhood education center. What did DMPED do with that suggestion?
So I do recall hearing that, but as you've heard earlier from the development team, Parcel 13 backs up to a ravine. As a result, the topography is very irregular. It slopes down sharply, and it's over top of the Green Line Metro going to Congress Heights. While this does not present like obstacles for development, the cost would be astronomical to convert that into a daycare site. So what our option would be is when this site is completely developed, we could probably reach out to OSSI to see if there's a need to open up a daycare facility within the completed development parcel.
So can you help me understand that? So, I mean, we can turn it into a residential, a mixed use, like residential and commercial space, but couldn't develop it into a daycare. I have trouble reconciling that.
So what I think you're saying is that the district would not develop it into daycare. So what we're doing now is the developer is entering into a ground lease with the district to develop affordable housing with at least 21,000 square feet of space for tenants. And if a daycare is necessary, then the district should enter into a lease for a potential daycare facility with this developer.
Okay. So how does the process work? Does DMPED say, here's the thing that we want to develop, who can develop it? Or does DMPED say, here's a parcel, tell us what you would like to do with this parcel?
So what DMPED does is utilize the master plan, which in 2008, 2009, council approved the framework for this master plan that became the 2012 master plan of St. Elizabeth East. So what we do is we utilize that master plan because in the master plan, it says what is envisioned for each site. And that is what we do. And so then we release that to the public and we say, here are the challenges and this is what is envisioned. There is our residential requirements. There are green space requirements for each parcel. And that is what we provide to the community, to the development community.
Okay, so with respect to Parcel 13, what does the master plan say regarding that parcel?
So the master plan has a requirement of 1.60 of FAR of housing. It has a promenade for a plaza, a promenade, which I think you spoke of earlier. Retail, because as you know, 13th Street that will connect from Alabama Avenue, which is currently under construction, will promote, so residential, so you could promote, retail, so you can promote walking traffic along the 13th Street to the Metro. Because on the other end of that, you'll have the hospital off of Pecan Street, and then also the entertainment and sports arena on the other side of 13th Street. So those are just some of the requirements of Parcel 13.
Okay. So if we have a master plan that sort of lays out what's going to happen in each of the parcels, does that negate the community process? So as these parcels, as the district looks to do the surplus and disposition processes for these parcels, what can be learned or what purpose do the public meetings play at that point, since there is a master plan?
So I will say, not council member, nothing negates a community process, because the community is always, they have been hand in hand with me, and I thank them for that, doing just the implementation. We have implemented and have about 7 projects currently under construction, and we could not have been doing that without their assistance. So I do And then two things I committed to them was progress when I started 3 years ago, and March will be 3 years, progress and transparency. And I have done just that as the executive director. But I will say we've held multiple meetings. So as I stated, March 28th, 2018, we held a meeting. January 29th, that was the pre-bidders conference. We presented on June 3rd, 2020 to the full ANC, July 15th to the ANC Exec Committee. December 20th, 2020, I held a community holiday party with 6 residents. So whenever I hold something publicly, I require each of the development teams to come out and set up a table so that the community is always informed of what's going on with that project. So we are always in the community.
If there are cost overruns on this project, who bears that cost?
The developer.
Okay.
Yeah, as
And
you know, St. Elizabeth's is an opportunity zone. So the development that's done, they seek investors to invest in the property. What they will do is apply for Housing Production Trust Fund subsidy.
Okay. What document sort of codifies or documents the who's responsible for cost overruns?
Once we sign the land disposition agreement.
Oh, it goes in that?
Yes.
Okay. The developers seem to think that the district may pay some of those costs. So I would want to make sure that we are.
Yeah, we'll go back. We'll have to go back over that section with them.
I appreciate it. Another question I asked to them, to the development team is why not more affordable housing? This is, a lot of affordable housing. I don't mean to imply that it's not 126 units,
Right.
But why not more than that?
So, like I said, that's up to this development. They did what was required under 10801, which was 30%, under 50% of AMI. From the projects I said now with the residences at 202 units, Parcel 15 will have 153 affordable units, and Parcel 13 with 126. We're at a little over 500 affordable units just in the area. I know that when you look at beyond the St. Elizabeth East boundaries, that there is quite a bit of affordable housing as well. So the goal is to have a mix of affordable and market rate units within this development.
So you mentioned a minute ago Housing Production Trust Fund dollars, which subsidizes affordable housing projects, but we're also giving the land away virtually for free. So it seems like there are at least two public subsidies for the affordable housing on this project, which seems like a lot. This isn't my profession, but if we're sort of giving the land away for essentially for free, and giving Housing Production Trust Fund dollars, then what's the Housing Production Trust Fund dollars paying for, and what's the land paying for?
Well, actually, if you looked at the appraisal, the land is actually worth nothing. So the value is being created with this development. As for most of the campus, so right now, because of all the challenges with developing at St. Elizabeth's, when we appraise most of the property, it starts off at zero, and the value is being created with the development that's being built there. So while it doesn't have value now, it will have value in the future, but right now there is no value.
Yeah, this is something I struggle with. I know it makes sense to DMPED. It doesn't make sense to most of us outside of DMPED, because if you ask me, if you said, look, I'll give you this parcel, will you pay $1 for it? I'd pay $1 for it. So I would say it has at least $1 value. Would somebody pay $2? Yes, they would, right? So I don't really get how we get these valuations of, you know, land in the District of Columbia having no value. That is something I really have difficulty wrapping my head around, and a lot of people do. It's something that comes up a lot. Yeah, I don't even know what to do with that. That's not even a question. I'm just saying. I'd say that every hearing that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Do we when for the land valuations? Do we get multiple appraisals or just one for when we do these deals?
One.
Okay. Okay. Since the question of a early childhood education center came up in the public meeting, did DMPED or anybody else from the government sort of respond to the community to give them an understanding of why you're not utilizing that suggestion?
No, but I think we have within the process, because the developer will be or has been back out in the community, it will continue to be as they design this building. We can have that conversation then.
Yeah, I guess this raises sort of a broader question of whether there's any kind of formal procedure that DMPED representatives are supposed to use to make sure every suggestion from the community on a surplus or disposition hearing gets a sort of a full and appropriate response. Is that something that you can look at?
Sure.
I appreciate it. And is there any like internal policy at DMPED with regard to responding to surplus and disposition recommendations?
Well, I would say we will follow the policy for the government, which would be 24 hours or the next business day. But for this, I think our response was probably when we went back out to the community with the RFP before it was released, and then during the RFP process.
Did DMPED evaluate the possibility of retaining control of this particular parcel and allowing a district agency to operate like social housing or something of that sort, as opposed to disposing of it to a private landlord?
So we didn't give up ownership. The district still owns the leasehold for this property. So we're leasing the property. So I wouldn't say that we gave it up, but you're saying, did we look at allowing someone to just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, this qualifies as a disposition. And what I'm asking is if we evaluated the possibility of retaining control of this property, not disposing of this property through a long-term lease, and allowing a district agency to operate social housing or some other sort of, public housing option.
I know I would say we did not talk to DCHA because they are our public housing provider to offer public housing.
Were there any alternative disposition methods that you considered for this parcel?
No, again, we dispose of it in accordance with the requirements of the master plan.
So when you all do a surplus hearing on parcels at St. Elizabeth's, if you're already guided by the St. Elizabeth's master plan, then what purpose do the surplus hearings serve?
So the purpose is you still inform the community of you're going to deem the property as surplus. And I do also like to check in, even though there is a master plan, those community outreach efforts, like I said, there were about 20 to 25 efforts occurred within a period of time. So you still just want to check in with the community because, as you know, some of the people in the community have changed. So you still want to provide them with the, update them or just have them understand like the process. So maybe whoever participated, they weren't able to participate in a plan when it was done in 2012. So that you still provide them with the appropriate information.
All right, I have to go back and look at the legislative language regarding surplus hearings, but I do think that they are, supposed to serve a different function, and that function seems to not be at play because there is already a master plan that predates these surplus hearings. So I need to look at that, but I hope that you all will as well, because I think this is going to be a difficult point for us, or at least something that we're going to have to sort through with regard to surplus and dispositions at St. Elizabeth's and probably any other place where there's a master plan that exists prior to these surplus and disposition hearings that you all hold.
Well, we will definitely look at it and we can circle back and have a conversation with your office.
I appreciate it. Yeah, understanding your analysis of that, DMPED's analysis would be very helpful before we have sort of any more of these hearings, just so we all have a common understanding of the law and whether or not we are following the law as intended here.
Okay.
So my office has received suggestions that maybe DMPED should do a formal land value recapture analysis. And my understanding is that this type of analysis would look at the dollar value of the land being given to a developer and ask essentially, how much value is the community getting back? Is that a type of analysis that you all do?
I would need to look into that.
And part of the point of that is that it's not just when we look at a land value recapture and do that kind of analysis, it factors in other opportunity costs. So it's not just that DC gives away like whatever the land is worth, but DC also gives away its opportunity to build like, a park. And that park may also raise nearby property values or tax revenues. I'm not saying necessarily that is the case here, but sort of it would be something that we would want to know because the sort of the value analysis that we do currently leaves a lot of us kind of scratching our head. Again, I know it's something that makes sense internally at DMPED, but it is something that's really hard to wrap our heads around outside of the agency. Yeah, there are a number of ideas that have come up as we have just started like looking into other ways to look at these processes, particularly following the analysis that we got from the council's office on racial equity. And one of the thoughts that came to us is letting surrounding community members somehow hold equity in the property or a right to income from the property, like similar to a community land trust. is DMPED open to ideas like this?
I will say that our Parcel 15 developer looked into it with the Urban Land Institute. And what they did find is I think it would just be similar to a co-op. And I don't know that the payoff, I don't think they saw the gains that people would have wanted to see over time. So
Okay.
that's probably something that your office can continue to look into, but we did have an extensive look at it for Parcel 15.
Okay, great. We may reach out for information on that so we can understand better sort of what that analysis looks like as we try to figure it out. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, but it was what the returns would be similar to a very, very low interest savings account. So if it's not better than that, then it's kind of pointless to say that you have have equity ownership.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. The two community meetings in 2020 that to allow members of the public to engage with potential developers, what feedback did you get from the public at those events?
Again, they wanted to see it, but they were talking about they wanted to see just an increased number of ADA units for those that have disabilities in their development. There was some feedback about additional space for nonprofits within that space. And I know that the developer is going to look into it. But then I will also, when we go back out to the community, share that there will be other spaces coming online that will be for nonprofits. So it's still it's a balancing act, because again, you're developing all of these parcels and with housing, space for nonprofits, but then also space for retailers. When this development is done, it will bring a lot of unmet needs to the Congress Heights area. And so I know that everyone's excited about it. And, we are definitely trying to bring the amenities and of course, the healthcare needs, the housing needs, affordable housing needs, retailers and nonprofit space. So it'll be a great mix.
Okay. Why didn't DMPED hold the second hearing that DC Code Section 10-801 requires once you decide on a proposed disposition?
So again, I think DMPED held numerous meetings. So again, I'll say the March 28th meeting, March 4th meeting, the June 2nd, 2020 meeting, the July 15th, 2020 meeting, again, the December 20th, 2020 meeting, and again in January at the exec meeting, and back out to the ANC meeting on this month. So the community is very aware of this project and what's happening at Parcel 13.
So, I appreciate that you all have multiple meetings, but the law requires a second administrative hearing, the disposition hearing, and that's where community members sort of, weigh in. That's their statutory opportunity to weigh in on the specific proposed disposition of the property. So, if you all held all these meetings, why not hold the one statutorily required meeting?
So I would really have to defer to our legislative team and follow up with your office about process. But I can speak to the meetings that were held by the St. Elizabeth's team.
All right. That question is going to be critical to the committee's action. So if you make sure your team gets us a thorough answer on that, I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
Can you walk me through your engagement with ANC 8C?
With ANC 8C, I'll just say, as you know, right now, just over the past 4 years, we've opened up the residences at St. Elizabeth's East, which is the 252 apartments, 202 affordable, that is completely leased up. The Whitman Walker Health Facility, which is currently under construction, will deliver in January of 23. the new health hospital, which will break ground on February 17th. The district townhomes, which are currently under construction. And then also the Pecan Street, which is stage 2 of the infrastructure improvements, and 13th Street. So for all of those projects, we are in the community. We have to, they have to go to the Commission on Fine Arts, the Historic Preservation Review Board. And for all of those, they need letters of support from ANCHC. So we are at their meetings. We present to them regularly. Again, with the projects that I've named, we could not have done these projects without obtaining feedback from the community. And during the construction phases, we are still engaged in the community throughout those periods as well.
And I know you mentioned earlier changes made to the number of ADA accessible units. Are there any other examples of changes you made to the RFP in response to ANC members' suggestions or concerns?
So it actually wasn't to the RFP. This is feedback that we received, that the development team received from ANCHC.
Okay.
While they're currently designing the building.
Okay, so no changes to the RFP, but some changes
No,
after the fact.
Correct. At that time, we did not hear ADA units prior to the RFP process, but this is something that we're hearing recently. I guess as people are starting to move in, maybe this is feedback that the ANC has gotten from the community, but they did share it with them at the January exec meeting.
What did you hear back from the Congress Heights Community Association about their desires for this parcel?
Their desires was for additional retail amenities. And they were excited to have smokers come into St. Elizabeth's, and they're also, on the edge of their seats to see whom else the developer can get to commit to come into Parcel 13.
In 2008, DMPA wrote that they would conduct additional community engagement during the solicitation process and follow up transportation studies. What transportation studies have been done?
So we recently did a transportation study for the new hospital, so that we can look at the traffic circulation from Pecan Street from Alabama Avenue to 13th Street, and also understanding that in probably the next 3 to 5 years, there'll be an expansion of MLK Southeast. So we looked at the circulation of the ambulance traffic, and also how the parking garage traffic will circulate throughout the campus as well.
Help me understand how the transportation study for the hospital connects with the residential development, like or mixed use development, like what's proposed for Parcel 13.
So as I stated, the phase 2 infrastructure plan is currently underway. Pecan Street, which is how you will access the new hospital off of MLK Southeast. It will intersect with 13th Street, which is also under construction. 13th Street Parcel 13 is actually on the corridor of 13th Street. So that's how you will access Parcel 13 from 13th Street. So at some point, Pecan Street and 13th Street will intersect. So you'll have traffic coming from Alabama Avenue potentially to 13th Street to Pecan Street, and traffic coming from Pecan Street from the hospital to around 13th Street to access Alabama Avenue Southeast.
Okay. And so the transportation study regarding the hospital anticipated the approximate density that you anticipate from the master plan?
So no, it anticipates, the traffic study anticipates what is being built. So again, it would anticipate a 500 car garage. It anticipates the circulation of ambulance traffic. It anticipates that we will now have 2 hospitals located at St. Elizabeth's East, the current psychiatric hospital, and then the new UHSGW hospital. So it takes into account those things.
Okay.
Bicycles, just all the things that in building a roadway network.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, all right. So with respect to, forget about the hospital for a second, but with respect to the residential and commercial development, DMPED believes that sort of parking, pedestrian, bicycle, access are sufficient, or the plan to build them out will be sufficient?
So are you saying for parcel 13?
For,
specifically?
yes.
Yes.
Will there be additional government subsidies to support the affordable housing other than housing production trust fund in the land value?
No, generally, it will be the HPTF, and I'm sure they will appeal to the Housing Finance Agency for low income tax credits as well.
One of the things that the Council Office on Racial Equity flagged and cited was a statistic that half of all Black families in the district can't afford an affordable unit larger than a studio at the 50% of median income level. Have you heard this statistic before?
No, and I thank you. I saw that in the responses as it was related to the 2 Patterson plan.
Yeah.
And I'm not familiar with that. I would have to read up on that particular, the 2 Patterson racial equity plan.
The question I was going to ask, and you may have just answered it, is whether DMPED has had any conversations about how to address the reality that affordable quite often means something different for Black households than for white households. Is that something that DMPED has grappled with or thought through?
So we do have conversations about equity. That's why we have the equity RFPs. That's why we do the affordable housing in each of our development. That's why, the Housing Production Trust Fund continues to increase so that we can make sure that people are able to live and stay within their communities.
I see Half Smoke mentioned by name in DMPED's formal legislative package, but not a wider circle. Why is that?
I don't know. I would have to ask our legislative team why they're not specifically written, but they do. They will be in the Parcel 13 development.
Your appraiser, Newmark Knight Frank, appears to have assumed that the proposed new building on Parcel 13 will be built to last 55 years, but it's a 99-year lease that we're doing. So why do a 99-year lease if their sort of assumption seems to be that the building will last roughly 55 years?
So if there's a short-term lease, it would be very, very difficult for any developer to obtain financing for the project. At the end of the useful life of the asset, you will want to be certain that there is enough ground lease remaining so that the developer will have the ability to refinance and reinvest in the property. So we want to ensure that the investment continues and the asset remains in good condition. You just don't want them to say, hey, after 55 years, we're not going to continue to reinvest in the property. And so you want them to do that. You want to have enough ground lease remaining so that they're able to still obtain financing to keep it, up to par.
Can you give us an update on any wetlands issues with the parcel?
So I would not say that there are any issues. I do meet with our Department of Energy and the Environment on a biweekly basis to talk about all the other projects. Once the LDDA is signed, this project will also be on our agenda. As you know, DOEE does have regulations for wetlands and streams, and we will follow those regulations.
Would it be worth, I'm sorry, just going back a question, would it be worth on this or other long-term lease deals, sort of having provisions that would at least give the district the option of recapturing lands after, let's say, 55 years or so? That it's 99 years is a long time, building might not last that long, but the district may not be able to recapture it even after sort of the life of the building has passed. Is there a reason that we don't or wouldn't sort of at least create a midway option?
I would have to look into that.
The 801 East shelter project, which I know you're familiar with, certainly I think they went decently over budget because they had to build some fancy kind of foundation to protect the metro underneath. How confident are you that the developer can complete their proposed project without negative impacts on metro?
So I'm confident that they can. As Gabe told you from GCS Siegel, they did build the Parcel 6 garage, which is also over the metro site and next to Parcel 13. So they have had, we have a team actually from WMATA that is assigned to St. Elizabeth's East specifically, and they have worked with them on the Parcel 6 garage. So I'm very confident in their expertise and that they will be, that they kind of like, since they have the knowledge and the expertise, that they would have priced it out appropriately. I know that they're already in conversations with the team at WMATA just to talk about some of the foundations and look at some of the foundations that they're interested in them building over their metro tunnel. But we'll also share the 801 East debrief with them on the 801 East project as well, so that everybody is informed.
That's great. I appreciate it. You had mentioned that this development will generate a little more than $56.5 million over 30 years in tax revenue, which averages out to about $1.89 million a year. What are some of the assumptions that go into that estimate?
So some of the assumptions would be, of course, that you'll have the retail component. So you'll have the business taxes. You'll have the tax base from people living there, the market rate units as well. And then also, so those are some of the basics, and there's something that you don't have now. There's nothing there now because the land is completely undeveloped.
And you are estimating 69 permanent jobs from this development. What are we doing to ensure that district residents can take advantage of those jobs?
So once we get closer to the permanent jobs and what the retailers will be, as we've done in the past, we host things on the campus. Right now, when CBEs want to learn about opportunities, we host things for specific projects to let our DC residents know and our Ward 8 residents know what's available to them. And we would do the same thing here. So we'll probably partner with our local nonprofits to host hiring events. As you know, we have a lot of workforce training providers in the area. We have University of District of Columbia right up the street, OICDC, and some of the people who've already been doing this work for some years. So we'll partner with them to host something for Ward 8 residents so that they're able to know what opportunities are available to them.
Okay. So you feel confident that for the employment categories anticipated in this and future projects, that either residents have those skills or we have employment training opportunities already in existence to develop those skills?
Correct. And that once we know they're coming online, if we recognize that we don't have them, then we start a pipeline so that we make sure that we do have them.
Okay. And how will we? Well, I mean, these projects are going to come online at different times. So is this something we should be sort of analyzing now so that we're creating, pipelines for multiple parcels at the same time?
Correct. So we're always analyzing them, but I think right now we have mainly been focused on construction jobs because that's what's available now. We know that we have to build the infrastructure and the capacity in order to attract retailers. So to attract the retail jobs. So right now our focus has been on shoring up like construction jobs and getting people on board hired on the construction front, but we will move to the retail front once we start to build the capacity. So we'll look at, the hospital and look at those jobs. And so, we have a lot coming in the near future.
And this project includes first source requirements and Davis-Bacon. Is that right?
Correct.
I appreciate it. Those are all the questions that I have. Is there anything that you think is important that we missed?
No, I think you've covered everything, and we will definitely follow up with your office on the follow-up questions that you had.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you for being with us, Ms. Owens. Thank you to you and your team for coming to the hearing today, and also for all the work that you all are doing. Not just on this parcel, but across St. Elizabeth's. And I do want to note for anyone who was a member of the public who was unable to testify, written testimony is encouraged and will be made part of the official record. So if you would like to, you can submit additional testimony by email to the committee at facilities@dccouncil.us, facilities@dccouncil.us. The record for this hearing will close at the close of business on Monday, February 21st, 2022. With that, let me thank again our government witness, Latrina Owens, all of our public witnesses as well. With that, the business before this committee is concluded. The time is now 2:01 p.m. and this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks again.